world of Hollywood, you know, it's all about mythical stories and, of course, stuff of legends, things that you don't possibly know about, you know. And as I've often said before on the show, one of my delights is literally meeting some of these wonderful Hollywood greats who tell you the inside track about the greats that they've met, worked with, or indeed considered friends. They are, in fact, magical people because you get to know the real inside story of what went on behind the scenes. All the big studios, you know, like 20th Century Fox, MGM and RKO, all of those global things going around at the start. And you thought that those stars had no problems at all. You didn't know about their background. That is, of course, until magazines like Confidential came along in the 1950s and blew it all out of the water. You know what I'm saying? But what's fascinating about certain stories is you are then literally able to find out the truth behind the headlines. And in this particular case, a British actress, none other, thought she possibly had the role. And this is a story that she's literally gone around with for years. But when in fact, of course, she never truly had the role at all. As ever, let me explain. Morning, nice to see you. Thank you so much for your time as ever. And of course, welcome on and all brand new subscribers. We are in Victoria Gardens, which is part, of course, of Parliament. And this is where, as I often say, you see all those politicians being interviewed very earnestly, you know. Yes, we're going to bring the country back up. And oh yes, they love being in here. And of course, like a lot of politicians, as they say, some people, maybe politics is show business for, shall we say, other people. We won't be unkind. But it's a lovely area, as I say, steeped in history. Apparently, Winston Churchill used to wander around here just to get inspired before his speeches to Parliament behind me there. Now, maybe somebody who needed to get inspired was none other than this particular actress. You see, cast your mind back to the early 1960s. One of the biggest movies of that decade has to be this, Cleopatra. Oh wow, what a movie. What a lady in Elizabeth Taylor, of course, became a dame. And as I told you before here on the show, I was lucky enough to meet her, albeit very briefly, at the Victoria Palace many years ago when she came over to London with her play The Little Foxes. It was just magical to be there. And then we went to a press conference when she was launching some perfume, and she was a little bit slimmer then, you know, but a wonderful lady, really down to earth. A lot of fun, by the way, a real lot of fun. But of course, the story goes that she was the person that picked up the very first £1 million check to star in a movie, an American movie. And Cleopatra was going to be that big movie. Originally filmed over here at Pinewood Studios in Buckinghamshire, but because of the bad weather and Elizabeth's ill health, it had to be moved over to Rome, which is where, of course, another story unfolded when she decided to park Eddie Fisher, the crooner, and move on with Mark Antony, who became one of the real life loves, Richard Burton. So good, she married him twice. But what's interesting here, you see, is our very own Dame Joan Collins truly believed at the point that she was going to be considered for the biggest role on the lot at 20th Century Fox, playing the Queen of the Nile. This is a story that she's put in books and all that sort of stuff. But talking to some of the Hollywood greats who were there at the time, including Dean Martin's son, Mickey Rooney, they all basically said that what actually happened was this. Darryl F. Zanuck and Buddy Adler were the main two cheesers, along with Spiros Skouras, over at 20th Century Fox. And what was interesting was, yes, they did test Joan on a number of occasions alongside the brilliant actor Anthony Quayle, but they always really only wanted the $1 million Elizabeth Taylor. Now let's not forget, Dame Joan, as she now is, of course, wasn't a megastar of that particular era, being in things like The Wayward Bus alongside Jane Mansfield, and of course Rally Round the Flag Boys alongside the gorgeous Paul Newman, but was no means a sort of major box office star. This was, of course, 1959. Now what was interesting was, yes, while they decided to test Joan, what truly came out was the fact that they only ever really had eyes for Elizabeth Taylor. And this also centered upon the fact of a major makeup company, Revlon, who were going to be sponsoring the makeup. You get the picture now. And they needed a big name, literally a huge name, to sell the product. But what got interesting was at the premiere, apparently Elizabeth Taylor didn't too much like the makeup. Yes, and then her co-star Rex Harrison decided that the poster in Times Square had to be taken down at great cost to Fox, simply because his name had to be alongside Elizabeth's, not underneath. Equal billing. Oh yes, Diva-dom delights. Now, while Dame Joan Collins possibly believed, and her agent maybe have told her, that she was definitely going to be up for the role, according to my sources, and as ever, you know, they're in black and white, they basically said, no, Fox only ever truly wanted Dame Elizabeth Taylor. But it doesn't really matter, did it? Because actually it went to a British actress, albeit. And of course the very first British actress to pick up a £1 million deal was of course Dame Elizabeth Taylor. Now Marilyn Monroe, also at the studio, was only picking up half of that money for her final unfinished film, Something Got to Give. Now that truly is another story. As for Dame Joan, of course, her stardom came much later, all thanks to playing Alexis Carrington Colby Dexter in the brilliant hit TV show Dynasty. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.